Representative Gomberg checked to make sure that one of you was going to show up for the highlights reel. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. Today we have Mayor Scott Hill from the city of McMinnville, got Casey Kula, Yamhill County. We've got Mayor Beth Witowski from the city of Dayton. We've got Kelly Minke, the city council president from the city of McMinnville. We have Joyce Fleming from U.S. Congresswoman Bonamici's office. We have Representative Bill Post. We have Scott Cooper from McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. We have Mayor Michael Caba Amity. Beavers. I've got my Vikings shirt on. And we have Commissioner Mary Starrett from Yamhill County. And I think somewhere around here, Commissioner Olson is working on getting in.
Yeah, I think he got kicked off. Do you want to have me host Casey so I can work on getting him?
That sounds wonderful. I thought I had him join as panelist, but I may have removed him instead.
I think that might be what happened.
Okay, perfect. And we have Abisha Stone from Strategic Economic Development Partnership, or Strategic Economic Development Corporation. You know. Representative Post, now that you've had a little bit of sleep, what's your takeaway from the special session that ended at 11 o'clock last night?
The Senate, being a little more efficient, finished at 10:20, 10:15, something like that. The House, we finished, I believe it was 11:20. So yeah, we went a little bit longer. I just briefly, I put in the chat thing my summary that I just wrote this morning, and it's a summary of what happened, and then especially how I voted on each bill and why. And so I don't know that necessarily want to go through all of that, but I think the big takeaway to everyone in Yamhill County is, and I see Representative Noble's on now, and I'm assuming he'll agree with me on this. The most frustrating thing is that once again, the doors were locked for you to be there, and meaning you, whether you're commissioner, mayor, citizen, whatever it might be. It's really frustrating when the information goes up on OLIS, the Oregon Legislative Information System, at in Sunday afternoon, and we're meeting at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. So look, the public doesn't know how to use OLIS anyway. I've tried to work with people on how to use OLIS. I have a YouTube video that's very simple. Click and just follow me and you'll see how to use it. People don't, so even if they did know how to use it, it wasn't there. And so we roll in on Monday morning and there's no public testimony. The Speaker of the House declared, I think, very first thing in the very first committee, there will be no public testimony. There was, I think, if I remember right, 3 or 4 invited testimony. And then you could submit via email, which, come on, how many people are going to submit by email and have it actually be read into the record right there? It didn't happen. So it was just bam, 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 rolled through the bills, and that was it. And though it was a long day, the long day was attributed mainly to the paperwork having to catch up to us as we were moving along. So it's this nonstop shutting out of the people. And I know we're in a COVID situation and I get that, but surely we have the ability to get 25 people into a large room in the Capitol, let them testify, roll them out, roll another 25 in, whatever it takes. I don't care what it takes. The public should be a part of this. And so that was the most frustrating thing for me yesterday, is the public being shut out. As far as the bills, they were mostly budget bills. There was a couple of policy bills. Representative Noble was on the committee that worked towards the police reform bill, so I'll let him give more detail on that. I voted yes on it because, in essence, and again, he can correct me if I'm wrong, in essence, it made law what is already law. So why would I vote no? The Supreme Court twice ruled that this particular police action cannot be done and has not been in practice in Oregon for over 30 years. So we codified what we've already codified, is my way of putting it. And then the budget bills, for those folks in Yamhill County, the one that bothered me the most that I voted no on was the omnibus budget bill because it included $4.6 million cut to the farm to school program. Representative Clem and I worked very hard on the farm to school program in 2019, and it's all of what we built in 2019 is now gone. And I have farmers in my district who have broccoli waiting to go to Jervis Elementary or to St. Paul Elementary that's not going to be able to go now. And that's on top, of course, whether there'll be kids in school or not, I don't know. But I'm very upset that we cut about $5 million from the farm to school program. We cut veteran service by $2.1 million. We cut mental health. We cut, I forget what the number was on that. We cut a lot. And I'm just not sure that that was necessary right now. There were other things that we could have gotten to prioritizing. So there it is. That's my summary. Again, you can read the link that I read, that I posted for more details. And thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you very much, Representative Post. First, are there questions specific for Representative Post? And then we can get some thoughts from Representative Noble.
Representative Post, this is Mary Starrett, and thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Representative, for staying up long hours for us. I'm wondering if there was any response to the concerns raised about the lack of public comment?
By whom? Because
so
Rep Noble and I sounded the alarm all day.
And yes, and was the response the crickets I'm hearing in the background, if those are not birds, or was it just, well, this is why we're doing it? Was there any cogent response to that?
Ron, I don't know what the overarching theme is COVID, and so we can't have people in the building, even though Marion County is in phase 2. So I really felt like the opportunity was there to allow public, like I said, bring 15 to 25 people into that great big hearing room downstairs. What is it, hearing room 50? Have 15, 25 people, have them do their 3 minutes of testimony and roll through another review. I don't know why we couldn't have done that. Maybe Ron has a better answer.
The first special session we had, we did have testimony. We had public testimony. There was a little bit more notification as to what the bills were going to be for the first session. We didn't really know what we were going to be considering till Sunday, that put everything it cramped everything. But the first session we did allow for, it was all virtual, but it did allow for people to sign up and be involved in the public hearing process. Most of what I heard was these bills had been gone through and talked about, like the budget bills had been received much work during the work of the subcommittees a couple weeks ago, and that the law enforcement related bills had work done through the Joint Committee on Transparent. But most of what we considered actually was a little bit different, and a result of that public input, there was really no public input on the exact bills that we were considering. So there's an argument to be made both ways. I think that we demonstrated in the first special session that we can do it with public input and public hearings. That was a little bit disappointing, but then it would have, more than likely, Representative Post and myself would be there today and potentially tomorrow, because it does create a longer process.
And if I could add, Commissioner Starrett, you know what, and again, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's interesting. If you were to read the media about the Oregon legislature, it would be Republicans versus Democrats, Democrats versus Republicans. What's actually fascinating is the largest battle in the Oregon legislature is not between the two parties. It's between the Speaker of the House and the Senate President. And that is never talked about in the media, and none of you probably even know about this, but the Speaker wants one path and the Senate President, Peter Courtney, wants another path. And when those two paths don't go together, there is war. And that happened yesterday on multiple occasions. And the fact that we're not there today is because of the Senate President, Peter Courtney, saying, we're going to be done today. So that's kind of something that's a little inside baseball for everybody.
And, one other thing to address that, Commissioner, the concern over public testimony is not just one side of the aisle. Actually, it was first raised when we were adopting our rules by Representative Wilde, who's a Democratic representative out of the Eugene area, and also mentioned his concern for the inequity on how COVID funds are being spread throughout the state. On a per capita basis, they tend to be more in the metro area as opposed to the rural areas of Oregon. So that was all part of the process and wanting, but it was definitely a bipartisan concern of lack of hearings and just going straight to work sessions.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Commissioner Starrett, did you get a little bit more of your questions answered?
Thank you very much.
Yes, so I have a question. I want to keep us moving, but it's really important to have your perspectives right now. I was curious about the kind of background and need for the amendment to I wish I could remember the statute, but it's the one around declaring an emergency and the powers of the governor. And there was a highlighted section about releasing information. What was that all about? I know that a lot of people sent me comments that were concerned that the whole thing was what was being introduced as a bill. And I let people know that it was just the bold portion. Maybe I should just pull it up.
I think you're talking about the ability for the Department of Revenue to share information within other state agencies. And that part of what the employment department is having to struggle with is being able to verify income levels when it comes to PUA payments. And the bill was an exception in that it only lasts while there is a declaration of an emergency for COVID, to allow the Department of Revenue to share with the employment department the income levels of individuals that are claiming to be harmed, so that they can process those in a much more expedient manner.
Yeah, and I would add, so that was, if I'm not mistaken, Senate Bill 1703, the
Yes.
tax filing information sharing with OED. It was amended it would have been broader. Multiple agencies could have shared that information. It was narrowed down to just the Employment Department of Revenue. I voted no on it. There were 5 no's. I voted no basically because I was very concerned about the slippery slope of sharing information among state agencies of private information. That really bothered me. And most important, that there was no sunset on it. And so it could go on forever. And I think we maybe, okay, yes, during this emergency situation, but not 10 years from now. So that was why I was a no on it.
Okay, thank you for that information. Yeah, great. Other questions for the representatives? It looks like Commissioner Olson has a question.
Yeah, I have one, and this will be for both Representative Post and Representative Noble. Has there been any more talk or anything going around the Capitol about the letter submitted to the governor for reopening private schools? Yesterday, there was a letter sent to the governor,
Right.
and it was signed by, I think, about 60 officials, from senators to House reps to commissioners to mayors to school districts, and to everybody, about opening private school and rolling it back, where the private schools can make the decision on when they open based on the previous plan and not based on the governor's new plan.
I know that was submitted. I signed on to that letter, and we haven't heard anything back as far as I know so far.
Okay.
And I would just add, so it was submitted twice by Kevin Mannix. It was submitted yesterday, I think, and then again this morning, because there were several of us that I guess he didn't get the email that we wanted to sign on to. So it's been resubmitted to the governor. So I imagine it'll be a little while before there's a reply. Although I didn't realize she just held a press conference at 12:30 this afternoon, and I caught the last 3 minutes of it, but I didn't hear anything about schools.
Okay, thank you, too.
Yeah, I was searching for more information from the press conference, but I haven't seen anything yet. So perhaps somebody who's here now knows more. But we'll get to that.
This is Mary.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Oh, do you want me to? I just had a quick update, if I could. I want to thank Representative Noble and Post for signing on to that letter, as I did, and it might be a discussion item on our agenda Thursday, so I will not belabor it because we have a quorum. But I will say that is Senator Roblin on the call by any chance?
He is not today.
Oh, okay. One of the Delphine Academy in our West Valley has actually had applied for an exemption to be able to open. They had voluntarily shut down their campus back before the stay home, stay safe order was even imposed. And they've done everything they were supposed to do, which was the steps that the governor required and set out in June. And now they're being told that even if they don't allow day students back, they cannot have that exemption and the students cannot come back to school. So this is quite disturbing to schools that basically rely not on public funds, but on tuition, and it would effectively shut them down. So we're trying to figure out, what's the workaround? What's the way we can get these schools to open? They've all complied. The rules and regulations say that you've got to, just go by public health protocols and have an outline that you can submit to your local public health authority. And our private schools in the county are really concerned about not being able to provide this option to their kids. So we're hoping that the governor will go back to her June 10th guidelines, which would make it that that private schools could go ahead and open if they'd gone through these particular guidelines. The other thing is, which is quite telling, is what Leo Horner said on the call last Wednesday, which was the reason why the private schools were having to abide by the public school guidelines is because they want to make sure they prevented a mass exodus from the public schools. So we're still going to hope that the governor looks at these letters that come and realize how important it is for our parents to have that option for school choice. Thank you.
And Commissioner, if I could add, I know all of you are in Yamhill County, and what I'm going to tell you about is in Marion County, but it's close to you. It's St. Paul. The St. Paul School District is being asked by a rather large contingent of parents. In fact, the survey had 91.7% of the parents of St. Paul said they want school to resume in person in September. Then the teachers were polled, and there was one teacher that said she was tentatively against it, but would be glad to go. So St. Paul is wanting to take the route. I don't know if you've heard, the Culver School District superintendent declared they will have school September 8th. The Cove School District will have school on September 8th, in-person school, which is interesting because the governor said it would be a district-by-district decision, but with this overarching other theme. And so it's going to be a real test to see, because frankly, I talked to the Culver School Superintendent in anticipation of the St. Paul meeting, which is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Anybody's welcome to attend. The talk that I had with the Culver School Superintendent was, I said, are you expecting repercussions? And she actually asked the same question that I was asking. What repercussions? We've already been giving our funding for this biennium. You can't take it back. What happens? So, and interestingly enough, Culver is a situation that mirrors St. Paul. It's about the same size town between two about the same size, medium-sized towns, Newburgh and Kaiser, St. Paul. Culver is between Madras and Redmond. Very similar, almost exact same mileage. Everything's exactly the same. So this is going to be a test case to see. I know it's not about private school, but it's going to be fascinating to see what happens tomorrow night, because the school superintendent, the principal for the high school and the elementary school, and the school board chair are all going to be at this meeting with parents.
And I would like to note too that nobody is saying you can't have in-person classes. There's simply the benchmarks by which in-person can open or in-person can close. So I just want to acknowledge that we do still have time, but that individual school districts have made the choice to meet via distance rather than in person. Just want to put that out there. Do we have more questions for the representatives about the session? Okay, great. Commissioner Starrett, did you want to add anything more? Because I was going to go on to commissioners next. And then I want to make sure that we get Mayor Hill in before he heads off to another call.
The only thing I would add is that there was supposedly an exemption for rural schools, and Sheridan was told, the Delphine Academy was told they don't qualify as a rural school, even though they have a campus of over 720 acres. So again, that's just, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what people wind up doing as a workaround here, because one of the options was I suggested that they function as a day camp, and then I suggested they function as a daycare, but then they would have to get an exemption from the early learning division. So really, state agencies are at the end of the day are wielding some power over even the private schools. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Commissioner Starrett. I'm glad that you're helping them with creativity with this. I think that in so many areas of regulation, it is important when you're on that line to look at creative approaches to your particular problem. Mayor Hill, do you have time? Oh, yes, Representative.
I was wondering if I can just take a minute. I know that if the mayor has to leave, that I would acquiesce to him, but I was going to add a couple things to what Representative Post had to say.
Go for it, Representative.
Okay, just real quick, Representative Post mentioned a lot of the budget stuff, and for instance, like the omnibus bill. That I would agree. There are some things in there that I absolutely did not want to see cut. Farm to school and some veteran stuff we cut in a time where we need to increase our supports for mental health and addiction recovery. But there were some things that were good. We increased our supports for child abuse intervention centers. We've added $50 million to the LIFT program for housing. But it's truly a situation where every single budget bill we voted on, there were things that we did not want to see cut that impact people's lives, and then things that we added and protected that impact people's lives. I don't think there was anybody there on either side of the aisle that was totally pleased with the way that worked. So prioritization is difficult, and when 60 or 90 people come together to try and figure out the priorities that impact people's lives, that's where we were yesterday. Just real briefly on the law enforcement bills, Representative Post is correct. In the 80s, there were two landmark Supreme Court cases, United States Supreme Court cases, that dictates essentially how law enforcement uses force. And Oregon statutes were over 50 years behind. So bringing statutes up to agree, or actually the same standard with the Oregon or the U.S. Supreme Court was an important step yesterday. And then also including things like requiring de-escalation if possible, verbal warnings, things that departments who are accredited, who are using best practices would already have in their policies, but definitely not something that is consistent statewide or nationwide. So I think we made some good headway yesterday to ensure the professionalism of our law enforcement officers. I'm confident that the agencies serving Yamhill County, it will reinforce what they are doing. I have specific knowledge of one, and unless their policies have changed a whole lot in the last 6 years, I'm confident that it will only agree with what they've been doing for quite a while. So with that, I will turn that over to Mayor Hill.
Thank you, Representative Noble. Casey, I'd move my meeting to 2. So if you want to get Joyce's report nationally and then go to Rick and then get Mayor's later, that'd be great.
Okay, that sounds great. Mayor/Commissioner Olson, are you good with waiting a little bit?
I'm good with waiting a little bit. I don't have any problem.
Okay, great. And I'm going to just put my teeth on the screen, apparently. Joyce, I would love to hear from you if you have any updates from from DC.
I wish I had some good news to report, but unfortunately, when it comes to the stimulus bill, there hasn't been any movement. And what I heard in a meeting this morning is that it appears to be stalled at the moment. As I think all of you know, the House bill was about $3 trillion, and the Senate bill is about $1 trillion. So there's quite a bit of compromise that needs to happen there. The Oregon delegation, or I should say, the senators and Congressman Blumenauer Congresswoman Bonamici are holding a press conference this afternoon at 3 o'clock. They are going to discuss the need for passing a relief bill. I think there will be a number of speakers, not necessarily the elected officials, but other people who are going to be discussing why they need this relief. So that is this afternoon. I won't go into a lot of the details because there's so much a distance between the two bills. But if you have questions, let me know. If I can't answer them, I will talk to my colleagues who can get you an answer. And then in other areas, we are hearing a lot about the census count being reduced by a month. That it will definitely result in people not being counted. I read somewhere that it could result in as many as 30% of Oregonians not being counted. So the senators, and again, it was Blumenauer and Bonamici, wrote a letter to the director of the Census Bureau and the Secretary of Commerce demanding that the original end date of October 31st be reinstated. So that bill was, the letter was just sent today. But that is of great concern to a lot of people, as are other issues, including funding the post office and vote by mail. So those are kind of our top lines right now. And then I also just wanted to thank everybody who has responded to me on the new date for our electeds meeting. Thank you very much. We have rescheduled that for August 26th at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you haven't received the invitation from me, or it's lost somewhere in your inboxes, please just let me know. I'd be happy to resend it. Or if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond to those too. Thanks, Casey.
Great, thank you, Joyce. Questions for Joyce? Joya. Oh, and then it looks like Mayor Wojtowski probably after you.
Mayor can go ahead of me. I can wait. Go ahead.
She will.
Sorry, I just calmed down enough to turn my camera back on. I didn't actually have a comment on that.
All right, then I will. I just would like to reiterate that, and I know you know this already, but it would be really wonderful if not-for-profits like Chambers of Commerce, 501(c)(3)6s can be included in the ability to receive PPP. Chambers across the country are suffering. It means jobs. And so I know you know this, and I'm just going to reiterate it because it's important to keep saying it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I will reiterate it. It is something that, the Congresswoman, and I know most of the delegation is pushing for that.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Joya. It's we get the C6s need help, and municipalities with their water bills. You've got those drilled into you. Yes, that's right. Okay, anything else for Joyce? Great, thank you very much, and keep up the good work. Commissioner Olson, what would you like to tell people today?
Thanks, Casey. Just a couple of things that I want to bring the group up to. Number one, is a very big concern of mine that our transit provider, First Transit, who provides all the transit for YCTA, the drivers, the maintenance, everything, they were asked a question about their drivers getting tested for COVID, because we know there's quite an exchange on the buses. And it turns out First Interstate's policy is they will not test their drivers. They don't think it's necessary to test their drivers. And I'm a little concerned that YCTA so far has not pushed back on that, saying, you manage our system, we want the drivers periodically or tested, because we don't have the faintest clue how many drivers are actually transit drivers could actually be carrying the virus. So that's a big concern of mine. And Ken Huffer and our Cynthia Thompson, our YCTA manager, are looking into that with First Transit now. The second thing I'd like to bring up is that after spending my second nice weekend downtown, the number of people that are eating at restaurants downtown, especially on breakfast and lunch on Saturdays and Sundays, is phenomenal. Almost this Sunday, almost everybody was filled up outside. The only two things I heard about that, and I think this is more meant towards the McMinnville City Council and maybe even the Chamber, is they said what would help them a lot, because they lose all their Friday breakfast business outside, if the main street could be closed down at 4 o'clock Thursday to give them the ability to set up, so then they'd have the full Friday, Saturday, and Sunday dates. But other than that, they think it's a great idea. They'd like to see it go from in the future, May 1st all the way through October 15th, because it has made a difference to those businesses downtown and their revenue. And then the third thing, even though we have a spike in the number of cases, what I've been hearing is the level of the cases seems to be getting more moderate instead of very heavy cases. They're not as strong. And the thing that I see as hopeful is the positivity rate has gone from 5.6% to 4.8%, which is a good thing too. So I think as long as we continue to decrease the positivity rate and increase the testing with the cases getting less severe, I think we're going to be in fine condition. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you very much, Commissioner. Are there questions for Commissioner Olson? There's a lot of City of McMinnville people here, so I'm sure that they can provide their own updates. I actually was going to make a joke and be like, Representative Noble, what do you think about this? But I'm going to defer to the people who actually haven't spoken yet. All right, any other questions for Commissioner Olson? All right, great. We will move on to Mayor Hill then. Mayor Hill, what would you like to tell people in the community today?
Thank you, Commissioner, and it's good to see everyone on the call. Just a couple of things today. I think it mirrors a lot what Commissioner Olson had to say. Number one, that we ought to be aware that our numbers have come down a bit, but we're still at a level that we need to, again, wear coverings. We need to keep our social distancing, and we need to wash our hands. I think that's primarily something that we need to do every day, and I think we can curb and continue that the severity of cases coming down. I likewise was downtown over the weekend, and it's just amazing to see people doing safe practicing while in supporting our downtown restaurants. Again, we have 21 restaurants, and they're excited about being able to have workers back and providing meals and having a social environment in a very appropriate way that doesn't spread the virus. All of the restaurants have the proper PPE, and they are doing everything in their that which is appropriate to be able to get the meals out safely and have an environment that allows us to take and be involved in this great weather that we're having. Last thing that I would just like to say is, again, as we're working towards economic revitalization and our Business Oregon grant that we have, we're moving forward on looking at those businesses that have made applications. We've got a subcommittee that's working on that. And again, we have 45 days, so we're working very hard to do that. The Economic Vitality Committee will be seeing the results of the subcommittee's work, and we're looking forward to being able to share, where we're headed and what's happening there, but too early to tell right now. And that's what I would have for the group today. Great,
thank you very much, Mayor. There are questions for Mayor? Oh, looks like from the former mayor.
I have one for Mayor Hill. Scott, this economic development, the Business Oregon grant, is any of that targeted specifically for venues? Because as we know, all the venues we have, the Bindery, the Grand Ballroom, and the McMarketplace, those are the ones that really seem to be hurting bad because they can't have good sized venues in there. So is there anything planned on allocating some of that money to the venues?
Allocating, I think that it's generally just open to those businesses. Now, based upon if it's not for profit in the C3 funding, and Joy, feel free to jump in on me if I'm wrong on that. But that would be the only thing that would affect that. But otherwise, if they're not under that status, then they're applicable. Then they can apply at any point in time during the process.
Right. Thank you, Scott. Any business can apply. Even businesses that have received, Scott, right? PPP or EIDL loans as well. So any business within McMinnville with 25 or fewer employees, excluding 501c6s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not-for-profits can apply as well. And certainly, there's also a focus on minority businesses.
Yeah, women-owned businesses and sole proprietorships, which both of those, Commissioner, that you mentioned fall within those realms. But they have to make the move and make the application. We're not going after them. I mean, we're getting the information out, but they have to do the paperwork to be a part of that.
And Mayor, correct me, Mayor Hill, if I'm not right, tomorrow we can expect to see that information, or at the latest Thursday, right?
Right.
Thank you, because you're talking about it tonight at City Council.
I don't know that that's on the agenda this evening.
Oh.
No, it's not. So it's going to come back to the Economic Vitality Group, and which will review that before it comes to City Council. So I'm thinking it's 2 weeks before it comes to City Council.
Oh, okay. I was mistaken. I thought it was coming before City Council this evening. Thank you. Sorry about that. I was confused. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm going to go to mayors before swinging back through the constellation of McMinnville folks. I hope that's all right. Mayor Wojtowski, what would you like to tell people today? But before I let you go, I just want to note that Representative Post put a link in the chat to Oregon Department of Education new guidance, and he and I have both been trying to look at it to see it's specific to remote and rural schools. So we'll see if there's something that may help schools like Delphian or schools in the West Valley specifically. So, okay, Mayor Wojtowski, what would you like to say today?
I'll make a little bit of comment on some of the push for exemption, and it's really only, of course, based on my own educational and governance philosophy, but I think our representatives in our government obviously have authority to impose restrictions and requirements on private business operations, private gatherings. So it seems equitable that they could also impose restrictions on private schools, very similar to which would be imposed on public schools. That doesn't seem to be a stretch to me. It's hard for me as an educator to hear that private schools seem to have, and I don't actually think a ton of it's coming from the private schools, but some private school advocates perhaps are treating them as more of a sovereignty. I actually, have friends with kids in private schools, and I know it's a little bit different, but I think it does make sense to look at some of those new guidelines as we look through them for rural schools, and to make sure that people, and especially children, of course, have access to the education to which they are entitled, and also that they very deeply need in order to support our society and our economy and all of our functions as a people. But I generally don't think it makes sense that private schools would be treated very largely different than public schools. And I'm going to very briefly state that despite my passion and competence and capability in public schools, that I just got a phone call today that is probably going to remove me from them. So I'm very upset about how things are in education and how that is reflecting in public policy. So that's all I'm going to be able to say about that right now.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Wachowski, and I'm very sorry about that. I try not to speak from other people, but I'm going to just speak for the rest of the folks on this call by saying that we are very glad to have you as a teacher in Dayton. And I'm sorry about that. And I am going to ask Mayor Cape, another school leader and staff member, what he can share with the community now. And we'll talk more, Mayor Wachowski.
Thanks. And I too am kind of caught in the middle. My daughter currently attends a private school, Western Christian, kind of right there on the border between Polk and Yamhill and Marion counties. But I work for public schools, so I see the value on both sides of that argument. I too have, while we've been talking, been looking at the new guidance released by the Department of Education, and there is some discussion on that on page 20. For those of you that are looking at it, it does talk about Yamhill County and the exceptions that would have to be met for schools in that county. So you can look there. Obviously, these new guidelines make it tricky for us and as they come out, because we put so much work into making these work instructions, and then boom, we get this dumped on us, and then it's a complete, you gotta go back and change. And this week in particular in Salem is one of my favorite weeks of the year. We have Kindergarten Jumpstart, and that's where the kindergartners, they go for a week to kind of learn how to be in a school, right? They learn where the library is, where the cafeteria is, bathrooms, and that even starts with us, all the way at the bus stop. And so we have 4 of the elementary schools doing the Kinder Jumpstart this week. And so for us, in a lot of ways, that's good, because not only do we get to see kids again, which is kind of why we all do this, and we get to see, generally speaking, happy kids. Kindergartners, they're always excited to get to start school and that whole process and all of that. But we also get a chance this week to put it in place our work instructions that we've been working on, and see where they're at, and see what needs to be tweaked and modified, and where we can find improvement and all that kind of stuff. And so I am excited about this week because of those reasons. It's kind of gets a little bit of that back to school year feel, where you can plan for everything, and then once the day starts, you're going to have the bumps and whatnot that's going to throw off your day. And so yesterday and today, it kind of felt like school again, and that was really nice on my part. When the emergencies come up, and how do you do this, and who's going to do that, and at the end of the day, for me, it's, do we get all the kids picked up and delivered safely? And so for me, that's the thrill, is when we can make that happen. So I would say that's the exciting part for me. As far as the schools go, it seems like today is a big news day. I don't know if people have been kind of following along, but for those that follow sports, the Big Ten and Pac-12 both announced postponement of their fall sports, including football. Joe Biden announced Senator Kamala Harris just a little while ago as his running mate for the Democratic ticket. So kind of a big news day, it seems like. And again, you know, it kind of also what we're getting from the Department of Ed also kind of falls in that. You know, not as big a news probably, but you know, it's still news, and so it's kind of finding that balance and where does everything fit in there, and that keeping things in perspective. And so I don't know where all to go with that. It seems like a big news day, but at the same time, I'm just really happy to get those kindergartners picked up and get them to school and get them to see what that's like. And, you know, we'll take the rest of it step by step and see where we go with that. But as far as the city of Amity goes, not a whole lot of new stuff to report there. Our park is open. I think people have been enjoying that and our new facility, and that's nice to see. And other than that, we're just plugging away on all our other activities. So, and if I can, seems like everybody's also jumping on the McMinnville thing. And I don't know, I must have missed everybody, but I think it was Saturday night. My family went to 3rd Street and had dinner in the middle of 3rd Street with music playing behind us. And it was nice. It was a very nice environment. And I was just thinking that I would love to be able to do something like that in Amity, but that would require getting ODOT approval, and I don't see ODOT saying yes to us shutting down Highway 99. So, and until I can come up with some creative way to emulate what you guys have done, I'll just have to try and enjoy what McMinnville has done. I'm sure the other businesses offside of 3rd Street would enjoy that as well, but that was very enjoyable. I liked it, and well done for all of you involved in that.
Well, Mayor, you know, you got to be careful because you get reroutes, and there's a bunch of people here who know about reroutes. Whew, you don't want to reroute on 99 through one of your neighborhoods.
We have to do that on occasion when there's like a bad crash or a fire or something, and it's not good. No. You hear about it, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. Let's see. I want to make sure that the business leaders get some comments in before we move on to councilors. And are there time constraints? Can I get started with Abisha? Looking for nods or shakes. Okay, great. Abisha, welcome back. What would you like to tell people today? And is it the same art behind you?
It is, yeah, just I'm in a different spot. So we're preparing to do a remodel, as are apparently 70% of the people, at least in my neighborhood. So I'm moving around in my house quite a bit these days. I don't have a lot of new things to offer, but there's a few things I want to reiterate. So as Mayor Hill was sharing about the grant program in McMinnville, I wanted to remind folks that our 3-county effort did secure a round 3 grant award from Business Oregon for $680,000 for the 3-county region. That round 3 grant program will open up to our business public in September. That will be offered again through Willamette Workforce Partnership. And so their website at willwp.org. I say continue to monitor that website, get on their mailing list, stay informed. That round 3 funding is coming. I also want to thank our e-board members on this call and off of this call for their work in transitioning some of the language around who can apply or who is eligible for those funds, and removing some of the limiting factors that we're seeing now be obstacles to these businesses accessing these funds. So I appreciate that work. I also want to thank Joyce for your follow-ups. I got a few things from your team coming through, and I always just appreciate the follow-up knowing that you're standing in for our friend Al. So thank you, Joyce, for being here. I'm going to continue the thankathon, so bear with me here. I want to also thank our representatives for participating in these calls and hearing us and taking those concerns back to your teams and looking to make real change in doing that, and then coming back and reporting back to us. I enjoy these calls for this reason. I mean, I could just sit here and listen to all of you talk for the whole hour and get so much benefit from that. So thank you for that. I also want to make sure I'm spending some time thanking our mayors and our city councilors who join these calls. You all are volunteers, and the work that you do is so valuable, and you are so plugged into your communities. I especially want to thank our mayoral educators. And as we're seeing with you here, Beth, it's not easy. And you can see in the faces of all of you how much you care about these kids. And these are our children. So I just want to spend a minute on this call, taking up time from all of this other stuff to say thank you. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Abisha. This is a similar, I sent an email to our public health folks or to our HHS director, and I was like, how do we adequately thank our public health staff who thought they were in a sprint, are now in a sprint marathon? And so that goes along. Thank you very much. Yeah. And since I'm terrible at transitions, I'm going to just jump into Shannon Buckmaster. What would you like to tell people today?
Well, my update is fairly simple. Just because the upcoming grant opportunities have been so well covered by the other economic conversations. I will say George Fox students return to campus this week, which changes the social dynamic of Newburgh. Their campus is closed. However, it's an open campus, right? So there are a million points of access. The student body has been asked to self-quarantine on campus for 2 weeks because they have come from all different cities, states, and a few countries even. So the students are being asked to be on campus except for absolutely essential travel off campus, and there will be no dog or child walking on George Fox's campus, which is countercultural to George Fox's open, inclusive atmosphere, but it's for the safety of staff, students, and community members, that there will not be any mixing. There's a good possibility that it will stay a closed campus even after the self-quarantine imposement. So if you're in the Newburgh area and you love the Hess Creek trails, I'm sorry, find a new place to walk for now. That being said, in case you missed the big chamber announcement last week, I have accepted a new position with the city of Newburgh. I will be using the month of August to transition from my role as the CEO for the Shaking the Valley Chamber of Commerce to a new position called the Economic Health Manager for the city of Newburgh. It will be a combination, it will be entirely economic development work, community support. It will include aspects of, you guys are all clapping. It's a challenging transition. I love the chamber. I love our businesses. It's hard to make changes. It will involve a customer service component on behalf of the city to make sure that it's easier to do, maintain, and expand business in Newburgh. And we'll look on sustainable projects for our community moving into the next 5 years, 10 years, even 30 years, as we consider the urban renewal feasibility plan that was just adopted by City Council that we'll begin implementing this next year. So that's our big transition. Our chamber is still staying consistent with programming, events, opportunities, virtual events, business support as we make this. So I'm just moving from the beautiful new office downtown to a different office in downtown Newburgh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shannon. And congratulations. I know there's lots of people who are muted, but congratulations. And that means that Doug Rux may have slightly less on his plate. Yeah, maybe.
My friends are being so kind in the chat here. I got a little distracted reading their comments. I feel like I've been called on in class unprepared. I'm sorry, Commissioner Cooler, what did you just ask me?
No problem. We can move on. I was just noting that it seems like this will give Doug Rux like a slightly less responsibility, and he has a lot on his plate.
We do have a vacancy for an assistant city planner. However, I will be working alongside Doug Rux to make his workload more manageable, and he will be my mentor, and hopefully I will be his relief worker for all of the great work that he does for our community.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Joya Goodrum, what would you like to tell people today?
Good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Great to see you all. Thank you again. I want to reiterate what Abisha said. It's so great to see all of these folks every week. I've always said how much I enjoy this call and everything I get to learn, and just hearing, at this level, what's happening within our community and our state. So thank you, all of you, for all the hard work that you do on behalf of our community. It means a lot, and it does a lot for us. So we're appreciative of that. I want to remind everybody, and this is the second to last time I'm going to say it, Lemonade Day is Saturday. So you'll only hear me say it one more time after today. Go out, support our kids, check them out on lemonadeday.org/McMinnville, and check out where those kids are. We've got about 20 of them that have actually branded their stand, and we have over 100 that have actually registered. They may be doing a virtual lemonade stand. Just support the kids. They are budding entrepreneurs, and that's what we're all about, keeping our economy going by creating entrepreneurs for the future. I wanted to, when Representative Post was talking about his farmer, I happened to see an email today from the USDA, and they've updated their list of eligible commodities to their coronavirus food assistance program. And so I just want to let folks know, if they need some help, if they're a farmer and they need some help, they have added some more commodities to that list. And I have the information. You could always shoot me an email at president@mcminnville.org. And Representative Post, I already sent it to you. It's in your inbox. I did send that to you. I want to talk about MDA and the fantastic job that they are doing with 3rd Street. Our director there is doing a great job, and he goes and cleans the street every day, particularly after the dine out in parentheses side. And so it was a brilliant idea, and I think they're doing some good stuff over there for 3rd Street, and certainly for our members. Our chamber is still strong, and we are going to continue doing the great work that we've always done when it comes to keeping our businesses apprised of what's happening locally and statewide and federally, as far as coronavirus and aid and those kinds of things. So I just want to thank everybody who stepped up to the plate to help us get those particular awards of money and grants, so that we can keep our businesses alive and thriving, so that our communities can stay alive and thriving. Thank you. That's all I have. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Joya, and thank you for the comments about the USDA. I know that I know very keenly that I don't speak for other farmers, but I think that, and Mayor Witoski will back me up on this likely, farmers want to be able to grow and sell the things that they do. They don't want a system that pays them to not do what they love to do. And so that's one of the powerful things about the Farm to School program. And so I hope that we can figure out a situation in our state where something like the USDA program matches with the Farm to Table program, so that students can still get this really awesome food that's grown in Marion County.
I have one last thing. I just want to mention Scott Cooper, because he was very instrumental in working with Heather Richards with the city to get that $100,000 grant. And so I just wanted to make sure that I noticed Scott for that. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Scott. Scott, speaking of that, do you have a couple of minutes of an update? And I want to make sure that we get to Councilor Drapkin and Council President Minke.
Yes, thank you. I will be very brief. I've got a 2 o'clock I need to jump onto as well. So just one thing, congratulations, Shannon. I look forward to working with you on the economic development side of things in the county. That's awesome. Thank you. And you'll be a very welcome addition to that new position. In our most recent talks with our manufacturing community and our trade sector community, a lot of the conversations, at least so far, that we're hearing are revolving around school and the start of school, how the workplaces are handling that, big and small, and that's a major concern, and our employers are struggling with that, and much as I know that the families are struggling with that too. So this is this really is something that's impacting both sides of the employer and employee relationship. So it'll be interesting to see how we manage to work through these next few months and find best practices out of that. So that's really it. I appreciate everybody's work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Scott. All right, I'm going to go with Council President because, yes, okay, nodding. Kelly, can you unmute yourself and welcome? I think that you've turned off your audio somehow. You're unmuted, but while you work on that, Councilor Drabkin, what would you like to share with the community today?
I'm just here as a listener today. Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, you didn't buy me very much time. All right, Councilor Venke, are you able to speak? Zoom! I can't hear you. Okay, I'm just trying to think, maybe you'll need to leave and then come back in, but as we're bumping up on the 2 o'clock hour, maybe we can get an update that you can send to folks. I know that you wanted to talk about homelessness and something else, and I don't remember what that is, but if we can figure it out, let's try to figure it out. Okay, great, thank you very much. All right, folks, out in the community, these folks are all working for you here right now and every day. But are there any last parting thoughts? I really appreciate hearing the legislative perspective and updates. Thank you for that. And Mayor Cape says double thumbs up. It looks like Councilor Drabkin and Representative Noble have both unmuted themselves. So let's go with Councilor Drabkin first.
I'll just say, because the topic came up, I wanted to make sure everybody know that we did get additional funding for the moteling program in the city of McMinnville through mid-September. So far, 86 people, which equates to 55 households, have been served. There are 11 families ready to go into housing right now. We just cannot find apartments that are for rent. So really a huge call out to the community to make their apartments available to YCAP, especially ground floor units, as many folks have the need to have a ground floor apartment in order for it to be an accessible apartment. So please let the people that have apartment buildings and available spaces be in contact with YCAP. YCAP has money to pay them for those units and people ready to go.
All right, thank you very much. Representative Noble, what would you like to add?
It was just really simple. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I've been gone for a few weeks. I understand we won't be having any committee meetings at least through September. So hopefully I'll be able to join you a little bit more often here. So, but it's good to be here. Thanks.
Does this mean 3 or 0? I just don't know. Representative Post, you needed to go, but what would you like to?
Yeah, he failed to mention there's going to be a third special session. The governor just made that. It wasn't an official announcement, but she said so. And it's going to be in September. So yeah, Ron, you don't have any meetings, but you know you're going to have some meetings. And
well, I will.
You're the one that's going to be really busy.
The policing committee has been meeting 6 hours a week, 3 days a week. We've got a couple weeks off before we get back into it.
Great, thank you. And Representative Post, I really appreciate you both laying out the things you voted for and also explaining why you voted the way you did. I commend you on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, we will get out of here, but I want to remind folks, we've got a coronavirus pandemic amongst us, but we're working hard and you are working hard and you're doing great. We're seeing the epi curve go like this. That's what we want to see. I think we can get schools open sometime in the fall for in-person with what we're doing right now. So that's my success. We can do this. All right, thank you very much, and we will see you on Friday.